Hello everyone, this is part 10 of What If Naruto Was Madara's Brother, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. 2 days later, Hashirama Senju pensively sat in his chambers, his vacant eyes blankly staring at an empty piece of paper through which he could sign a deal that would prevent his side from gaining the support of two of the most noble and prestigious clans. In front of him, his only sister paced restlessly. Her face a mask of righteous fury. He had never imagined Tsunade to develop into the warrior she was today. She was the epitome of power and grace mixed together. In his opinion, she was probably the most powerful Kunoichi and second best medic in the Land of Fire. He often wondered where that little girl he had carried on his shoulders disappeared to be replaced by a 15-year-old young woman who stood 5 feet 9 inches tall before him. Her blonde hair had grown longer, now almost reaching her back, in which she kept tied in a fine ponytail. Her skin was fairer than all of her brothers except for Tobirama, and she had all the womanly curves including her generous C. Many men had fallen to her charms only to have their end when she turned on them. Most of all, her temper was more dangerous than any of her siblings, and right now she looked ready to draw B. He glanced at the older Senju man in the room, one who had brought him the message from the Uchihas. Kota Senju was an old man who had seen enough warfare to last 3 generations. He had served Hashirama's grandfather as a young boy, Hashirama's father as an experienced fighter, and Hashirama himself as a war veteran, and right now the same man was glancing at the map of the Land of Fire territory, and Hashirama was worried to see that the Uchiha who controlled the north were now rapidly expanding their territory and influence. Their army was larger than that of Hashirama because of all the smaller clans they had gathered. And now they threatened to take the Yamanaka and Hitaki as well, which would be a dangerous blow to Hashirama's side. Most of all, they had captured Tobirama, and it worried Hashirama every second. What do they say of Naruto Uchiha in the north? Asked Hashirama curiously, making his sister glance at Kota as well. The older man looked at them for a moment before glancing at the Uchiha's ancestral weapon resting on Hashirama's desk. The Senju siblings didn't miss the older man shivering for a second as he recalled some bad memory. They call him the young dragon. They say he rides into battle on the back of a giant fox, some say he can turn into a fox himself. And he's the greatest swordsman I have ever seen, confessed Kota without hesitation, earning a derisive snort from Tsunade. The K is just one man, dismissed Tsunade, and was surprised when Kota shook his head. A man who has won every battle he's fought, my princess, warned Kota. Hashirama was still surprised when his people and allies alike called Tsunade a princess. Granted, the Senjus were one of the 2 most ancient and most powerful families, but they were not royalty like the Fire Daimyo. And yet they called her princess, giving her that much respect and love. But then again, his sister had always been the favorite of their people because of being the only daughter of their father. What happened there, Kota? Asked Hashirama patiently, wanting to hear the complete account of the defeat. We went in according to the plan Tobirama suggested, attacking the Uchiha on all fronts. Apart from Naruto himself, his Kinsguard had taken up command of the flanks and they wreaked havoc on our forces. That group is no less dangerous than their leader and would have killed many more of our own if they had not been ordered to fall back by Naruto himself. As for the boy, he fought valiantly, and when surrounded by our forces he chose to stay behind, allowing his surviving comrades a chance to flee. We tried to overwhelm him, but he was very powerful, but more than that, he's smart. He killed hundreds of our ninjas before taking Tobirama hostage at the last moment. We couldn't continue the attack without the risk of him killing Tobirama, explained Kota briefly. You should have saved my brother, Kota. The K was alone and there were hundreds of you, snapped Tsunade, for she remembered how badly injured Atama had been when he was brought back, all thanks to the K. And now another of her brothers was captured by that same man, and only gods knew what the butcher was doing to her poor brother. My princess, you cannot intimidate a man who seeks death. I saw it in his eyes, the desire to S, and he would have gladly done it if we attacked. And I assure you, he would have chopped off Tobirama's head before we kill him. That was not a price I was willing to pay, clarified Kota honestly, and prepared himself for a long argument when Tsunade looked about to protest again until one voice stopped them both. Enough. Hashirama's calm but commanding voice made both Senjus stop bickering and glance at their clan leader. Yet Tsunade was not finished and she approached her eldest brother and knelt by his side, even taking his hands in her own and looked at him pleadingly. Give me the men, brother. I'll save Tobirama, promised Tsunade, unable to hide the worry and fear in her heart for the life of her captured brother. No matter her anger, she loved her family probably even more than Hashirama. But then again Tsunade didn't have the burden of command on her shoulders. So, he patted her cheek like the young sister she was and gave her a kind smile. I cannot lose any more of my siblings. Nor do I want to lose more men, admitted Hashirama gently. Then come with us. No matter how strong the K is, he is no match for you, encouraged Tsunade, and was frustrated when Hashirama shook his head. It will only lead to more B, and Naruto Uchiha is a fine commander who will make us B heavily for that victory, and enough of our men have already s. I just got word the Yamanaka have officially surrendered and allied with the Uchiha. The boy burned their clan head alive and his supporters put the rest of the Yamanaka leadership to the sword. There is no way either Yamanaka or Hatake will join us now. And I will not kill Madara's last and youngest brother, declared Hashirama. Tsunade clenched her hands away from his and looked at him with fury and disappointment evident in her hazel eyes. More than that, Hashirama also spotted revulsion in her eyes at the actions of Naruto Uchiha. He's not your friend anymore, brother. Whatever bond you two shared all those years ago, he forsake it. Yelled Tsunade angrily, but felt guilty when she saw the raw pain in his eyes on that remark. It still was beyond her belief that her eldest brother and Madara had actually been good friends a few years ago. Neither of them had known each other's true identity, and from the happy smile that always arrived on his face on remembering those days, Tsunade knew Hashirama treasured them dearly. But it all had fallen apart when they both learned each other's true identity. Madara had been repulsed by the truth and the bond he shared with the Senju was shattered. Madara had walked away, but Hashirama was still waiting at the crossroads for his friend to return back to him. If I kill Madara's last brother, none of us shall survive the storm he would bring into our lives. That boy is the last line of defense holding back Madara's sanity. If he is, then there shall never be peace between our families, explained Hashirama seriously. My lord, the Uchiha have never desired peace with us. They shall not stop until they have destroyed us and our allies completely, advised Kota, and frowned when Hashirama glanced at him and Tsunade with a smile on his face. Peace is possible, Kota. If we are so passionate about fighting, then I am equally passionate about peace. My father never wanted it, nor his father before him, but I do. And I, Hashirama Senju, am the head of this clan. Tsunade shivered and stepped back on seeing the determined gaze of her brother hiding behind that smile of his. Her eldest brother was kind of heart and a friendly person, but everyone including his siblings knew there was no stopping him if he decided on something fully. I shall rescue my brother and resolve this conflict without further be, informed Hashirama. How? Asked Tsunade with a frown. In response, her brother got up from his chair and grabbed Dawn, the Uchiha ancestral sword, from his desk. When he started marching towards the exit, both Tsunade and Kota were forced to follow after him. Prepare our escort. We march for the capital. Naruto felt the winds rush past him as he galloped across the dense forests of the Land of Fire on the back of his giant fox friend. They had been riding for 2 days now with only a minimal amount of rest in their journey. Not many words were spoken and neither there was need for them. Kurama had been quite surprised when Naruto asked to visit the Amaterasu temple built by Indra Uchiha himself in the honor of the ancient goddess. While most noble clans and people alike followed the new gods, the Uchihas were the only family who kept faith with the old gods. But never had the fox taken Naruto to be a devout man. The boy had more reason than most to detest the gods and their existence for the several injustices he had to face in life, but when the battle against the Senjus ended and when Atama Yamanaka burned to his death, Kurama had seen something had broken inside of Naruto. And he could only hope the temple now arriving in front of them could provide his friend the help he needed. Not many would understand what Naruto did in the battle had saved lives, of both enemies and allies alike. But those actions weighed heavily on his consciousness. Kurama carried his only human friend upwards the hundreds of high steps and deposited him at the gates of the temple. One of the unique things the fox observed was the lack of presence of any men here. The outer compound was full of several priestesses and their servant girls. Even the guards were female warriors, and if he recalled correctly, these were a warrior group of women who actually fought and won against men, taking the defeated prisoners and proposing them to either by the sword or give their seed to the woman. If the union produced a boy, then he would be given to the father, and if it was a girl, then she would be raised by the mother to either become a priestess or warrior who defended this ancient temple. Located between the Senju and Uchiha borders, this place of worship had not been harmed by either side because the Uchihas were followers of the old gods and the Senjus respected religion enough not to do violence against its parishioners. Only true warriors were allowed to visit this temple, and Naruto was one of them. The boy got off Kurama's back and looked at his friend with the unasked question in his eyes. Go on. I don't worship these gods of yours when I am practically one myself, boasted the beast with a smug grin. Naruto's lips curved into his usual sarcastic smirk, and Kurama was relieved to see that side of him after so much time. The boy had been so quiet after what he had to do for their victory. He again surprised the fox by kneeling down and embracing Kurama in a firm hug. No man has ever had or will ever have a friend like you, Kurama. Thank you for being there, whispered Naruto. Kurama fought back his own tears at those kind and heartwarming words. No one had ever said something so nice to him after the Rikudo Sennin. Everyone who ever saw him only called him a monster. After what happened to his siblings, he had drifted aimlessly in this world, and only his duty to keep watch over the Uchiha had prevented him from becoming a mad dog. But Naruto was different. When men would have been afraid of Kurama and his power, this boy was not at all intimidated. He befriended Kurama, looked after him, protected and shielded him even if Kurama was capable of protecting himself. Never had Naruto asked him to fight his battles, yet Kurama had fought for this boy. Because despite not wanting to, he had came to love this boy just the way he had loved Indra once before he went astray. Naruto was so much like the boy Kurama had once loved and devoted himself to, but at the same time he was different. Something more. When they parted, Naruto gave him a small grateful smile before getting back on his feet and walking towards the temple. Kurama still watched him and was proud to see that despite so many beautiful priestesses around him, the boy only nodded back at them respectfully. Despite what the boy claimed, Kurama knew Naruto tried to adhere to his own sense of morals and honor. It set him apart from his Uchiha family, yet Kurama had always felt an aura of melancholy around the boy. He was born in tragedy because of the death of his mother who was trying to give him life, the same way Indra's mother is giving birth to Ashura. Kurama remembered Indra being the same as this boy in some matters. The only thing separating them was the fact that Naruto was jovial and sarcastic. But the aura of tragedy and sadness was ever present in his life, just as Indra had in his own. The Uchiha founder had dearly loved his family once, just like Naruto did with his own. Indra had been just as protective of his brother and family like Naruto, even if those same people detested him for his skill and personality. But in the end, in Indra's eyes, that same family betrayed him. The man's own father robbed him of his rightful position as successor. It was another matter that Indra didn't have the personality to make men love and follow him. Ashura himself usurped what was lawfully Indra's, and that started a war that had never ended till this day. Being the few who knew the boy's truth, Kurama couldn't help but see the similarities. Naruto had always been hated and looked down upon by his father. Tajima even robbed his own son of his rights, just as the Rikudo Sennin did with Indra. The Uchiha themselves hated Naruto just as many of the Rikudo Sennin's followers detested Indra for his strict style of ruling. The only thing stopping Naruto from being the Indra of this cycle was Madara and Naori's love. It kept the boy sane despite all he had done and endured, but Kurama was now seeing cracks that had started to develop in Naruto's impregnable armor. He could only hope the boy didn't follow in the footsteps of his ancestors, because if that happened, Kurama was duty-bound to kill him. And it would break the beast's heart forever and shatter his last shred of hope in humanity itself. Naruto knelt before the altar with his attentive eyes staring at the large statue of a woman dressed in fine silk and wearing a shining crown on her head which was bright enough to match the rays of the sun. No wonder she was called the goddess of the sun. In her hands, she held a collection of flowers, and in another she held a great sword. Even if the statue was made of stone, he actually felt as if he was standing before the goddess himself. And it made him feel small and insignificant. He could still see Atama Yamanaka burning alive whenever he closed his eyes, could still hear the man screaming in his dreams. Granted, he had burned many enemies with his fire attacks in battles, but to voluntarily burn a man alive with a single purpose of cowering his supporters was not something he had ever done. What brings you here before the goddess, stranger? He turned towards the soft and kind voice, and despite his control over his emotions, he couldn't help but marvel the beauty before him. The only thing that stopped him from blushing was her priestess robes and her sole-armed female bodyguard who glared at him. Still, Naruto turned back towards the woman and noticed she had waist-length black hair tied in a ponytail and sharp green eyes. She was beautiful with feminine grace, and it made his heart skip a few beats. But then he remembered his oath towards his father and averted his eyes from her mesmerizing face. He vaguely heard her dismissing her bodyguard before she knelt beside him and prayed to the goddess. A comfortable silence stretched between them as Naruto thought about his next course of action. This temple was famous among warriors broken from war. It was known for its kind and caring priestesses who helped lost men and women find their way in life. It was a selfless order kept safe by the fierce female clan of warriors called Nature. The only thing they asked in return was whatever the visitors felt comfortable in giving. Some gave charity in form of food, water and clothing. Some gave weapons. Few women even joined the Order of Holiness after enduring war their entire lives. And a handful men also gave the Nature clan children to continue their clan. He wondered what would be asked of him to give. She must have recognized his look as she gave him a kind smile. She was older than him by a few years. You are safe here, she promised, and despite his ninja nature he felt he could trust her. My name is Naruto Uchiha, he said hesitantly, unsure if on learning his identity if she would hate him, for he had done many wrongs in life. And in the eyes of the gods he was a sinner, the worst one bearing the name K. And I am Shizuka Nature, she replied with that same gentle smile. If she recognized him she did very well in hiding her hatred if she had any. He gave her a respectful bow which earned a melodious laughter from her which brought a smile to his own face despite his troubled heart. You are a noble, aren't you? She asked curiously. How would you know? He questioned back with the same curiosity. I have been observing you from the moment you arrived. Most men who come here are often distracted by the beauty of the priestesses and warrior women alike. It is why they often end up fighting our guards and be beaten. The good ones are allowed to provide us our next generation. But you were different. Never once did you look at any woman the wrong way. Even now you show me the proper respect, and your only purpose here is the one with the goddess, she answered. Naruto was stunned. To think she could learn so much about him in just a short span of time. This was no ordinary woman. You have a broken heart, she said with a sad smile. He had heard rumors about the ability of a few priestesses who claimed to have glimpses of the future and know the true soul of every human being on meeting them. Never had he believed in those rumors, but Shizuka's gaze was so intense that he felt she could unveil his darkest mysteries in moments. Yet she continued despite his alarmed expression. You were born in tragedy amidst tears, and fire. I see great joy and great loss to have occurred the moment you took your first breath. And I see a smile on your face the day you breathe your last, she whispered. Naruto, despite not wanting to believe her words, couldn't help but find quite a lot of truth in what she said to him. He had been born in tears, and fire. Tears of joy and sorrow from his mother and family respectively, from the life Hikari Uchiha S to give him his own, and fire for the family he was born in. The Uchiha, descendants of dragons. People often said even in her moments, his mother had been overjoyed on seeing her last and youngest child. The son she had worked hard and bore so much pain to give life. Yet it was also the day his father truly smiled for the last time. Even his brothers had been saddened on watching their mother And the last part had been his secret wish. To a happy and content man who did all he could for his family and his brother. Never had he shared his wish with anyone, not even Kurama. And yet this woman. He looked around the temple and only now he felt an aura he had never felt before. His great ancestor, Indra, had built this place, and in some way Naruto felt more connected to him here than anywhere else. I have sinned, priestess, admitted Naruto, earning a nod from her. There is not one man who could claim he hasn't. She pointed gracefully, which did make him feel a bit better if only for a moment before his dark memories came back to haunt him. How can I forgive myself for the things I have done? How would the gods, if they exist, forgive me for my crimes? He asked hesitantly. He knew what kind of person he was, and in the eyes of the Almighty he was perhaps the worst of humanity. Shizuka stayed silent for several long moments while staring at Amaterasu's statue standing tall before them both. God forgives all his children eventually. He made us in his image, and despite all our crimes, we all have some good in us that we inherited from God. Even if you believe yourself a sinner, there must be some good things you have done in your life, she suggested patiently. A few, he said reluctantly, making her smirk. Then forgive yourself while trying to do the best you can for yourself and those whom you care about. Live the life the way you want and not how others want you to. And let the gods be the judge when you meet them in heaven, she advised, and was not surprised when he snorted. After the things I have done, I don't think heaven would be the ideal place for me, he joked with his usual sarcastic grin. But her firm stare unnerved him a little and made his grin falter. Maybe it was him, but were her eyes shining brighter than before? What do you truly desire in life, Naruto Uchiha? She asked seriously. He pondered her question in his mind, and the usual answer about duty to his clan and family were ever present. But there were other wishes as well, those he had buried a long time ago. In the end he decided to let go of some of his burden in this holy place, no matter how foolish it sounded. I want to be loved. He averted his gaze from her stare, for he knew she would laugh at his childish desire. He was no longer the young boy from his past who needed affection. He was a man now, and his father had always said men were like rocks. Unbowed, unbent, unbroken. Men were the pillar of the society. They were the leaders to whom humanity looked up to for guidance and stability. Still, she never laughed at him or gave a funny remark which made him look back at her with surprise evident in his eyes. I see 3 instances in your life, Naruto Uchiha. Events when your soul will be tested, and what decisions you make then will affect your life and this world as well. And at the same time, I see great darkness in you waiting to consume you. Day by day your faith in this world is falling apart, and at this rate even your love for your family will not stop you from becoming the destroyer of this world, revealed Shizuka in a grave voice. Shivers passed across his entire body on her words. And yet she didn't look to be finished. Or you can be the savior of this world, but only if you become the man you are truly meant to be. Whatever choice you make, know this, that the world shall remember you for a very long time. He clenched his fists on hearing her words, which only added further to his problems. But he would not allow himself to fall into believing prophecies, for a man shaped his own destiny, not the gods. Shizuka must have realized his thoughts as she placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. When you already know that you are the architect of your own life, why bind yourself in chains? He stared at her in shock, for all his problems and worries had been resolved in those simple words. All this time he had imagined the world to be against him when he himself had been the one to do it. He never wanted wealth, or even leadership. All he wanted was, be happy, little brother. He closed his eyes, holding back the tears as his brother's last words came back to him. Even with his breath, Izuna had wished for him to be happy, knowing that was all Naruto had ever wanted. Shizuka now stepped before him and offered him her hand, which he took and raised himself back on his feet. There was a knowing smile on her face, and he couldn't help but return it with a relieved one of his own. Now what do you want? She asked curiously. I want to have a family, for my people to respect and love me again, to bring an end to this war, and have justice for my brothers, and protect the ones I love. That is all I ever wanted, he confessed, earning a nod from her. Then you will have it all, but only if you work for it with all your heart. I see something truly unique in you, don't let others dictate your life. Seize control and become the sun of your own life, just as Goddess Amaterasu is the sun of all our lives, advised Shizuka. He surprised her when he respectfully knelt before her and bowed his head. Thank you. She smiled and made him rise back on his feet. I did my duty as the goddess would have wanted me to, replied Shizuka politely, and saw he was not satisfied with her answer this time. Still, I must insist to provide something in return for the peace you have given me, said Naruto honestly. Shizuka looked at him for several long moments, and why did he feel she was checking him out in a way not appropriate for a priestess? But then again, there was no written law that forbade these women of God from living their mortal lives to the fullest extent. These Nature people were quite strange indeed. He was surprised when she came forward and laid a hand on his cheek, making him realize a small stubble had started to grow there already. There was something intense burning in her eyes that drew him closer to her, and suddenly he was exposed to her appeasing sweet smell that was similar to blue roses. How about this? She raised an eyebrow when he blushed heavily at her intended suggestion. I haven't done it before, he stammered in embarrassment. Truly, someone handsome like you would have women swooning over him, remarked Shizuka without shame, further adding to his embarrassment. Or do you swing the other way? Naruto choked harshly and had to cough several times, earning another melodious laughter from her remark and further to his embarrassment. Something within him ignited at that moment, a fire in his heart that was worthy of his dragon bee. He was not willing to use Mikoto, who was infatuated with him. She was a beautiful woman, but more than that, she was a good person, and he didn't doubt she would ever refuse him should he need her body to comfort or pleasure him. But he would not endanger her by doing so. But a casual fling with a willing and attractive partner didn't sound bad. And somehow bedding a priestess ignited the wild side of his that he kept in check all these years. Are you sure? He asked her one last time. His response was a passionate K. Kurama had to wait until nightfall for his friend to return, and when he saw him, he knew something had changed. Naruto walked taller and prouder than before. The guilt still lingered in his eyes, but along with that, Kurama also saw fierce determination. A man burning with passion whose every stride made the ground beneath him tremble a little, made every passerby glance at him awe and fear both. He saw him going into this temple as a broken boy, but now he saw a grown man returning. The beast's eyes somehow drifted towards the temple top, where he saw a woman staring at Naruto's retreating form. Kurama blinked. Could it be? It was hard to tell when Naruto masked his emotions so perfectly, but he did smell a scent on his friend that was not his own. And it laid quite heavy on his body, which confirmed what Kurama had suspected. And he made sure to remind his friend of that. You defied your father, stated Kurama, and was stunned when Naruto looked back at him without a flinch. Yes, Kurama had known this boy for years now, and nothing had made him hesitate more than to defy Tajima Uchiha and his orders. Yet the Naruto he stared at right now was not someone who was going to accept the things laid out before him. There was a fire in his eyes, the will to accomplish his dreams he had as a boy. Ones which were lost in the tragedies of his life. And he was going to burn anyone who got in his way. She could get pregnant, Naruto warned Kurama, for he was quite aware the retribution Tajima would wreak on his son for defying his order of never maintaining any kind of relationship with any women. The man was even more ruthless than his own sons, which was saying something. I know. Again with the short and cryptic answers which made Kurama growl and Naruto to finally stare at him straight with his hard eyes. If it's a girl, she will either stay with her or come to me. If it's a boy, I shall raise him, and if neither happens, then I'll consider this my first step in regaining all I have lost, promised Naruto. But you were forbidden from ever having a family, said Kurama seriously. The glare that came in Naruto's eyes made Kurama take a step back out of caution, for it reminded him of the same rage that had came in Indra's eyes when the man's own father did him injustice. I am taking back what is mine with force if I have to. If my father tries to resist, I shall destroy his precious legacy to shreds. Long have I allowed others to roll over me. I thought things would change and that my people would turn around. That this world will become a better place, but I was wrong. If I want things to change, then I have to conquer my own problems first, explained Naruto seriously. Kurama was left speechless and couldn't help but wonder as to what must have passed between Naruto and this priestess. His friend was a secretive and strange man, taking inspirations from things most men would neither notice or understand. Even if he didn't know what truly happened, he was glad to see the boy he had met first years ago. The one who had so many dreams and ambitions in life. All these years that boy had been buried beneath the burden of family and duty, but finally the boy had and a man was born. You plan to conquer the entire world? Asked Kurama cheekily, earning a wide grin from his friend. If I have to. I dare say it would be quite the adventure, wouldn't you say, old friend? Asked Naruto happily. The both embraced each other with laughs before Kurama allowed Naruto to get on top of his back. He watched the Uchiha's lingering gaze still resting on the beautiful woman who was waving back at him sadly. Naruto in return gave her his own sad smile and waved back before turning his beast friend around to begin their charge back towards the Yamanaka settlement. No one should ever know about this. Not father, Naori or even Madara or any other person, instructed Naruto. You don't trust them? Asked Kurama in surprise, for all the gods knew the boy loved his family. It's not that. We are all duty-bound towards the clan and to father. Even if they don't want to reveal this secret, father could force them. And I don't trust the old man. He may never allow me to have a family, but this way should Shizuka ever have a child of mine, then my line and family would continue. Once father then I know my brother will gladly welcome his niece or nephew into the clan. The fact that their mother was a highly respected priestess should do well in silencing any protests, clarified Naruto. You sly little bastard. I forgot you could be quite the mastermind. You really have thought this all through, and I have to assume this Shizuka is happy to be the mother of your children should she have any. I mean, you barely know each other, said Kurama with a frown, making Naruto laugh. You don't understand their culture, Fox. They seek men who are strong and good. The fact that I am handsome and of noble birth only makes me more popular. Besides, it was quite the experience and I want to punch my father for preventing me all this time, said Naruto harshly, making Kurama laugh. Whatever you say, it's your decision. But there is some sense in this mad plan of yours, but a priestess. And that too inside the temple. Gods, you have no shame, man, mocked Kurama with a grin. He regretted those words when without warning Naruto activated his Sharingan and looked right into Kurama's eyes. You bastard. Naruto laughed boisterously on hearing Kurama roar in fury, and even his stomach hurt as the beast desperately tried to blink his eyes shut. As if doing so would rid him of the exact memory Naruto had placed in his mind, of Naruto and Shizuka going at it like dogs in heat for hours. Take that, you stupid fox, taunted Naruto with a smug grin. I will kill you for this disgusting nightmare you have placed in my mind. Screamed Kurama, but it only made Naruto laugh more. Then who will remove this beautiful memory from your mind? Only I and Madara can do it, and I don't think you want to ask my brother for help. So hush you stupid fox and run, commanded Naruto with a smirk. Kurama yelled hundreds of nasty obscenities for nearly an hour, but it only made Naruto laugh more and more until his sides started to hurt. Yet he was happy and free of the burden that had weighed heavily on his mind ever since he burned Atama Yamanaka. There would always be darkness in this world, enemies always waiting to harm him. But if he was to find true happiness, then he had to conquer it. Izuna had wished it for him with his breath, and if not for himself, then Naruto was going to do it for his dear brother. He had to find his way back to power, respect and his place in his family no matter the cost or consequences. His encounter with Shizuka was one he was not going to ever forget, for it had truly opened his eyes in more ways than he could have imagined. But it also made him wonder about something. He had not loved Mikoto or Shizuka, yet he was attracted to them for different reasons. He had maintained different kind of relationships with them, yet he didn't love them. Did that make him a heartless bastard? Or someone who was not capable of love? Either way, he doubted he could ever love any woman in his life permanently. The gods had to practically throw Shizuka at his face to make him realize many important things. Would they do the same the next time? But then again, he had not yet been bound to any woman no matter how hard they tried. Naori had always called him a wild dragon, and his actions as well as personality befit his aunt's hypothesis. The only one possible of even getting a hold on him should be more crazier or wilder than him. And those kind of morons were a rare breed in this unforgiving world. Maybe he could be a Casanova kind of bachelor. That thought was quite amusing to his young mind, for it filled his head with several enticing images. But for now he was content in basking in pure joy as Kurama yelled at him to take those memories out of his head. Next day, when he entered the borders of Yamanaka territory, he was very pleased to see a joint force of Uchiha, Hitaki and Yamanaka keeping watch. What actually surprised him was the roar of approval and cheers from not just the Hitakis, but the Uchihas as well. Even Kurama seemed surprised by this change of heart. And as they continued to march straight towards the settlement, the roar only continued to grow louder and more bolder. On everyone's lips there was just one chant. The young dragon. Naruto's tea felt dry as he remembered this same name given to him in honor of his first victory against the Senjus. Back then he had not felt anything for this lore because he had lost 3 brothers for the victory. But now, for the first time in his life, he saw true respect and even admiration in the eyes of his people, and it was all for him. It was overwhelming. He had never received even a quarter of this love and cheers when he defeated the Fuma clan in single combat. But then again, they were not Senjus, and any victory against those tree huggers was enough to make any Uchiha a legend. And Naruto knew he had managed to achieve victory from the jaws of death. He had saved the lives of his clansmen, thrashed the Senjus, took Tobirama hostage, and had successfully managed to bring two great clans to their side. It was a great victory, probably his best till now. And he had every intention of achieving even greater ones should it give him even half of the love he was receiving right now. He had been afraid that his people and allies alike would hate him for burning Atama Yamanaka alive, but that single act had secured their victory. Could it be at that time they had just been too shocked of his action rather than be repulsed? It had to be the case, because if it wasn't, that not every Uchiha or Hatake would be coming forward to greet and praise him. The young dragon. The young dragon. The young dragon. He rode through the town that was shaking with the loud cheers and callings of his lure over and over. Had he himself been the reason for his misery all these years? Was it so easy to change his own world? But now he knew where the problem had been. It had always been just one person, Naruto himself. He had borne the guilt of his clansmen and his failure in saving his brothers. It made him loathe himself. And how could he expect people to love him when he didn't even love himself? How could he expect the prideful Uchiha to respect him when he himself allowed them to mock him behind his back? Had he confronted them, even punished a few severely, then perhaps they would have feared him. But they would not dare to mock him or curse him. But it was all in the past now. Seize control of your life. He remembered Shizuka's words to him, and it was only now that his shoulders stood tall and proud. His smile was infectious as he truly basked in the much-awaited love from his people. The Uchihas were a prideful clan and one who had long memories. They would never forget a slight and answer it with thrice the retribution, but they were not one to forget loyalty and either. And he had given them both for nearly 10 years while bearing all their scorn and hate. You made it, boy, whispered Kurama, and while the beast didn't give a rat's about what the Uchiha thought of his friend, he was at least relieved to see them accept Naruto for the man he was. It took 10 years of misery and pain, but the moment was here. They both arrived at the Yamanaka castle to be greeted by Naori and the entire Kan's guard, along with a small force of Uchiha and Hatake officers. When Naruto dismounted and walked towards them, he made sure to keep his emotions in check. No need to appear smug when the look in his aunt's eyes was quite grave. But he was surprised when his clansmen knelt before him and the Hatakes gave a respectful bow. Naori gave him a fierce embrace but said nothing about his absence for 3 days. He had gone away knowing she and his friends could handle it, and they had done just that and more. He had a feeling his aunt and his friends might have a hand in making their clansmen truly accept what he had done for them, even going so far as almost his life. Still, it was just a small contingent of his large clan and allies. There were still the elders, lesser noble families, and the common Uchiha civilians and soldiers both. He would have to win their hearts too, but this was a start. He was brought out of his inner musings when Naori wordlessly passed him a scroll. And his eyes widened when he recognized the seal. The fire daimyo. Quickly he opened the letter and saw the seal was already partially broken, meaning his aunt had already read the message, and as he went through the content of the letters his smile disappeared to be replaced by a cold mask of fury. What will you do? Asked Naori hesitantly. Naruto saw Kurama looking at him for information and decided to explain what had happened. The Senjus have went to the capital with quite a large force. It is known to everyone the daimyo favors them, but he also doesn't want to antagonize the Uchiha. The daimyo has called our side for negotiations in hopes of reaching some form of truce, explained Naruto seriously. So they ask for talks while keeping an army nearby to us should we not agree to their terms. Doesn't Hashirama realize we will kill his brother before he tries to harm one of our own? Asked Kagami furiously. They have called me to represent our clan along with the small guard detail. I doubt Hashirama will attempt something, knowing any action against me means Tobirama said Naruto hesitantly. It's a trap. The daimyo's in on it, spat Takeshi bitterly. You cannot ignore a royal summons from the court. Much less one from the daimyo himself, warned Naori. Naruto somberly stared at the message directed to him and what implications it held for him. He would have assumed Hashirama wanted to negotiate with his father since Tajima was the clan head and the authority. But it seemed the Senju clan head wanted Naruto to represent his clan since it was he who defeated the Senju and currently held Tobirama captive, and not Tajima. Or was there some other purpose? He looked at his aunt who was the politician in their family and even she seemed wary and unable to determine the true motive behind their enemy's actions. His Grace summons you to the capital. Then you'll go to the capital. Naruto's eyes widened and his voice in his tea as he looked at the person approaching towards him. Despite the situation, a wide smile came on his face and breaking all sense of grace he ran towards the person. But not alone. Madara barely managed to make his promise before Naruto had engulfed him in a monstrous bear hug. Being the taller among the two, Madara lifted his sibling in the air, earning a loud chuckle from him. He finally managed to calm down his young brother and got a look at him. Gods, how many years had it been since he last saw the depressed little runt? He remembered bidding farewell to a young boy only to see a full-grown man before him. A man who had proven himself a true Uchiha and was the pride of Madara's eyes. Naruto also looked at his brother and saw Madara was a few inches taller than him, his frame broader and more muscular than Naruto. His baby fat had melted away and despite being clean-shaven, Madara was an intimidating figure with his long shaggy black hair reaching up to his back and onyx black eyes that held the Sharingan in them. It was hard for Naruto to accept that this man was feared across the elemental nations almost at the same level as Hashirama. Probably even more, for while Hashirama was kind, Madara was ruthless. But then again, Madara had always been just his eldest brother to Naruto. Someone whom he could truly depend upon, a person who had defended him all their lives and stood for him more than anyone else. And here was his brother again, after all these years, ready to protect his sibling in his need of hour. This man was the reason Naruto had never wavered in his loyalty to the Uchiha, for he would rather than cause Madara any harm. Even if it meant serving those who hated him, but now his brother was back and he could already feel things changing. Madara's next command to Naori was a proof of that. Call the army. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.